in 5 minutes this is hard to do, but what I'd like to do is to focus on one part of the regional security area. Now, as you know, in 2003, the OAS member states put together a document, Declaration on Security in the Americas. It really was a very broad, encompassing document that put in issues of inequality and poverty and climate change and drug traffic and so on, and everything that in a basket, and included that as part of the security agenda. My view is I think it is time to revisit that document, to have another regional or hemispheric meeting to revisit the conclusions made in that document and perhaps align them better, be more specific and clear, and I'm happy to do that maybe in the question and answer. But I'd like to take a piece of that document, which is the area of crime and violence and illicit trafficking. This is one particular area that I like to spend time on in what I have. Kevin's going to talk a little bit probably about the drivers of insecurity and crime, many of which we were talking about all throughout the day today. But there is, in a sense, a Gordian knot, right? A Gordian knot of disaffection, social exclusion, poverty, inequality, weak governments or weak institutions, and you're sort of caught in this vicious cycle that's producing a number of security challenges, particularly in the area of crime and security. The question that I want to focus on is what's the response, right? How do we respond at the regional level? How do we respond to a security challenge that really emerges from within states or within nations, but that has transnational and regional implications? In other words, this problem spills over into other countries. And so globalization not only intensifies the issue of insecurity within countries, but it intensifies its transnationalization. And here I want to speak a little bit from my experience when I was in government and thinking about how to address this problem. And one is that we used to always talk about, right, Julissa, whole of government responses or whole of nation responses. And we found in the areas that I thought were most successful is when you were able to break down those barriers of distrust. Barriers of distrust not only within agencies of governments, but across borders, right? It was extremely challenging. We often found it was challenging for governments even within, but also across borders to, for example, share information, to collaborate and to coordinate. And so my elevator pitch, if I can put it this way, is what kinds of mechanisms can we develop, can we coordinate through international or regional mechanisms to enhance the level of coordination and collaboration, not just within governments, but across governments, among governments in the region, to share information, to coordinate in an effort to deal with a challenge that is fundamentally transnational, that does not recognize sovereignty, right? And how do we combat that? How do we respond to actors and activities that do not recognize sovereignty while we continue to work very much along the lines of a hard shell that we call sovereignty? That is the biggest gap I think we face. I'm not suggesting, before someone comes with a sense of shared sovereignty, right? I'm not talking about shared sovereignty. What I am talking is about ways to coordinate, get beyond sovereignty, to trust one another, to share information, to coordinate efforts to deal with this challenge. And finally, let's not leave it up to just governments. Let's think about what societies and NGOs and civil societies can do to coordinate, to collaborate, to support governmental efforts. We were talking earlier today about private-public, but we're thinking of public-private in terms of business, in terms of a job generation. That's all very good, but what about dealing with the issue of security or insecurity in the region? Can we not develop private-public partnerships to deal with crime and insecurity, not just within states, but across states? There's nothing more empowering, I think, than when civil society organizations across borders, communicating through technology and other means, try to hold not only governments accountable, but work together with governments to deal with this issue, not just the causes of violence, but the consequences or the symptoms of violence and insecurity in the region. Thank you very much.